Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new Let's Play series in Hearts of Iron 4 Kaiserreich. Today we are going to be playing as good old Canada. We're just wrapping up our Civilization 6 series as Canada, so why not begin one? Kaiserreich. Canada was the very first country I played in Kaiserreich on the channel. This would have been, at this point, like 3 years ago, roughly. Three and a half. So, they added a new focus tree, so, why not dive back in. This is also on the new update version 11.1 or something like that, 11.2. I'm not too sure, but it's on the newest version of Kaiserreich that did break, say, for Poland and Lithuania, but I will be able to continue that series. It'll just be on an older version. So, as Canada, what can we do? Well, for one, we are the leader of the Entente. Our plan is to reconquer the British with the help of the French Republic down here in Algeria. And we're also probably going to want to get involved in the American Civil War whenever that breaks out. If we're lucky, the CSA will just not rise up at all. But if we're unlucky, we will need to send many divisions down there to deal with that situation. So, right now, we have 2613, so we got 50 factories, a pretty decent start. 18 divisions, 158 boats. Do we have any oil? We have 2 units of oil, so not a lot. The Alberta oil sands have not been mined out quite yet. So, we'll at least get our entire army right now. Get them within here. Except for the Marine divisions, I do not need them involved in any ground-based assaults. You know what, I don't know. We'll prepare them in Halifax, have them potentially, let's say, invade, like, New York City. Because if we have to invade the United States, that would be one of the points we want to do it at. Delete this front line, please. What we're going to do is we're going to draw a front line, essentially just around where potential borders might be. I don't know if Minnesota always joins up with the CSA or not, but we'll see once the war actually begins. We go for all of our basic technologies. Luckily, we already have some of the basic stuff researched. Radio we don't need quite yet, so let's get the weapons and equipment here. 3 dockyards. We don't have that many civilian factories. We actually don't have enough resources to supply the amount of industry we're trying to get done. So. Let's start just some military production in Southern Ontario. At least for right now. 3 dockyards. We'll go for a handful into convoys. We'll go for 2 into dreadnoughts. 3 dreadnoughts, interwar dreadnought hull. Let's say 3 into you, and then let's go for some submarines as well. Unlike most of my campaigns, as Canada, you're going to have to focus a little bit more on the Navy. Get our Army and Naval experience here. We're also on the Council. Actually, not on the council for the legislation. Okay, that's fine. So, influence in the monarchy. Despite having lost to home Isles, King George V remains a potent figure in the empire and the Entente. He's a symbol of tradition in Europe as it should be. His exiles represent a great deal of political power within the Dominion of Canada. Influence of the British exiles is moderate. Popularity of King George V is also moderate. We gotta finish Project Plow to even invade the United Kingdom. Or I guess the Union of Britain. So it's been 10 years since the collapse of the United Kingdom in 1926, and in that time, the king, remnants of the British government, and over 1 million of the empire's best and brightest and wealthiest have fled to Canada. With the clear expectation that the invasion would soon be launched to take back the home Isles from the syndicalist upstarts, it quickly became evident, however, that the syndicalist position was stronger than anticipated. Early forays were rebuked, and the last decade have seen the Union of Britain become solidified and entrenched. The exiles, as they are called in Canada, while meanwhile being left adrift, determined to take back to homeland, facing a political reality that this will never happen. So, one thing that has changed, I think France is still in the Third Internationale, Britain's involved, but Italy is not currently actually within the faction. I believe that's just so they can, invade and unify Italy a little bit easier. The current situation. While initially welcomed with open arms by the Canadians, the notion of this might be in a long-term arrangement, an incredibly unpleasant one. Fingers were pointed and blame laid on those who deemed responsible for the collapse, the subsequent inability to rectify matters, and resentment against exiles who have been seen as a higher class in Dominion, as well above the law, and it's growing. In 1931, the year after their election, the minority government of R.V. Bennett and its conservatives collapsed to be replaced by Mackenzie King and the Liberals, with the promised focus on the Canadian sovereignty and keeping the British government exile at arm's length, rather than acting as if nothing has changed in their relationship. What can we do? We can direct the exiles. So they'll have less influence. The thing is, do I want them to have more influence, or do I want them to have less influence? Okay, I know there will be a crisis in Quebec if we go up to, I think extensive conscription is what fires that event. At which point you can become like an absolute monarchy. I mean, the king's gonna die soon. This is gonna open up a lot more. This year, Mackenzie King and the Liberals are nearing the end of their term, and on top of the tribulations of the Great Depression, there's growing criticisms that little progress has been made in resolving the political situation. King V lies on his deathbed, charging the exiles and conservatives with bringing the empire back on track. His government clashes often with the Liberals, and the Canadian public appear split between those who see matters come to head and those who would prefer to abandon their ties to the crown and the French exiles in Africa both. The upcoming election appears as though the most divisive in Canadian history. So, you could suppress the exiles once a year, its ability to direct them. You know, sure, we'll click on it. It doesn't cost any political power. So what do we want to do with the British exiles? Well, increase political power. We can add it as a modifier. Or an off-map factory built in the Canadian Empire to end at the year. I would like a free factory. Thank you very much. So we are kind of poor, to say the least. We really don't have enough resources. So we'll go for mostly steel. Or as much steel as you can possibly get at this point. Which is enough for us to build rifles. I'm guessing, actually, a lot of that's probably going to go for the ships, right? Yeah. Okay, Kerensky's been shot. Observer rights on legislating council. When the British Empire collapsed in 1925, the then governor of Hong Kong invited troops from Germany and other great powers with presence in China to occupy the British concessions to protect them from the Chinese. This sparked a covert conflict between the Americans, Japanese, Germans, which finally ended by America in 1928, when the legation cities, officially known as the International Mandate for the Chinese Concessions, was formed. As this was the case throughout the world, though Germany makes use of our imperial possessions, we still theoretically maintain ownership of them, though it is in China, where our extensive concessions guarantee us a seat on Legation Council. But at the same coin, however, the German refusal to recognize the government in Ottawa as responsible. British government denies us a vote in Shanghai. As a guarantor of British influence in the Far East, Canberra is generally responsible for the active mandate of the Chinese concessions, and our disengagement allows us to focus on regaining George V's throne. Should Australasia fall into instability, however, we will be obligated to take their place on the cities. Yeah, because does Australia have a vote? No. Okay. That's fine for now. We do need chromium. I mean, the Navy's important. I understand that. But how important is it? Is it more important than being able to build up artillery, motorized fighters, light tanks? We got a lot of things we gotta make. And is there anything in here to support the Prime Minister? Royal visits to these countries. What does that actually do for us? Okay, increases their stability for a year. Okay, I see. I'm trying to make these countries a little bit better for us. So King George V is dead. In the last several months, King George has been plagued by illness and his health has been failing. The fact has been kept from the public to keep appearances while treatments were attempted, but it all seems like it was for naught. At 11:55 yesterday, the king died following a bout of severe fever. His eldest son and heir apparent, Prince Edward, the heir to the throne is Edward VIII, is expected to address the nation within the month. The official coronation will take place in several months' time after an official mourning period for King George has been observed. 5% stability, and we can actually do some national focuses now, which is nice. We can get this one done. Envoy from Transmere. Today an envoy's been the petty military junta. The Transmiers come to visit His Majesty King Edward V. In a speech, the envoy informed us about the support for Kolchak's 1925 to unsuccessful in Petrograd. We can support Transmir, but like, how does that help us? I can give 100 guns. How many guns do I have? You know what? Give him 100 rifles. It's fine. I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe something good will happen. Maybe nothing will happen. Where's our boats, by the way? Because we have Navy, let's say, you know, in this region. I really don't think we need them there at all. Just send everything essentially just to be closer, just closer to London here. Our real adversary. If anything, we might even want to send them to France as well. Eastern Canada. We got 14 ships in India. We probably don't want you in India. I would much prefer you to actually be in France. And where is the other navy? Oh, you're coming home, right? Okay, so you're all kind of going to Canada. That seems fine. I mean, we won't have a lot of oil, but that is kind of okay. I don't really care about what Mexico's doing too much. Because you can only do this if the CSA actually exists. Of course, who do you want to side with? Do you want to side with MacArthur? Can you even side with the American Union State? I'm not too sure. Okay, so you guys are at war with Afghanistan. And for once, this actually involves me. Because I am the leader of the Entente. You're not like a puppet state, right? No, you're just kind of doing your own thing. Yeah, sure. We will join your war against Afghanistan. Why not? Black Monday has hit Canada. Just when we thought we were almost through the doldrums of the Great Depression, the German economy markets have experienced a massive crash, being dubs at Black Monday. While the Canadian economy isn't tied to the German markets at some ripples have been felt throughout the world, particularly in the United States, market we are particularly dependent on. This setback is difficult for us to take. The Prime Minister King has assured us the country we will make it through this, just as we through the dark years prior. I mean, so what do we got? 5% stability. Honestly, I guess you're just modifying the Great Depression. What is the Great Depression modifier? Yeah, the consumer good factory minus 25%. Or plus 25%, I should say. Isn't great. God, there's so many things here. King Edward recently made the rounds of Canadian newspaper commenting on the war in Afghanistan and saying this won't be the end of it. World order established after the Great War is now falling apart and the Empire must be ready. We cannot put our head in the ground and wish things were other than the way they are. For one way or another, the wars overseas will come to our shores. The King comments were seen as a tactic support of R.B. Bennett and the Conservatives, and many Canadians are reluctantly agreeing. As King Edward prepares his first radio address to the Empire, he must consider what his message will be. The Privy Council is, of course, urging him to promote the cause of retaking the home islands. R.B. Bennett and the leader of the Conservative Party and the official opposition suggest that he use his platform to endorse them for the upcoming election, saying that it'll serve the cause of war far better. Others, meanwhile, suggest that supporting the Conservative current Prime Minister and the government will go a long way in mending defenses to maintaining stability, though will be seen as a tacit endorsement of the Liberal Party's platform. Definitely, it's going to prepare the nation for war. You think I'm going to play a World War II simulator and not want to go to war? In his radio address, the King has spoken to the nation and has electrified it. From Vancouver to St. John, from Toronto to the Arctic, Canadians everywhere buzz with excitement after hearing the charismatic and forceful speech announcing syndicalism and the King's pledge to finish the war that his father began and reclaim Britain. This message was received in a tactic endorsement of the British exiles to Canada and a clear call to begin preparations for war, despite the current Liberal government's more tentative policy on the matter. We got two things of Liberals. The CCF have 1 point. The Nationalists have 8. Somehow, people in the military government have some seat on the parliament. I'm not too sure. Austria has backed out of Italy. Something that I do not care at all about. So, what? I mean, we should probably... Privy Council, Conference, Fate of the Senate. Where can I get rid of... 42-day focus, that's not too bad. Again, you just kind of modify the penalties here. Well, the Air Force, I don't think is really that important right now. The Navy, I can understand being... Production costs actually getting a lot cheaper would be nice. Coastal forts, kind of complete garbage. I don't see why I would ever want that. Project Plow is what we need to actually invade England. But I don't see a reason we would want to rush that. Like, I don't want to attack the Internationale before they're at war with Germany. I believe, at least. So... to the Senate, the Privy Council. Do I want to kind of... You know what? Let's at least try to reduce the penalty of the Great Depression a little bit. Because really, I have nothing at all. Like, where even is my oil? Over here in British Columbia. Okay. My tiny amount of fuel. Like, we know we're going to have to invade. Not the United States, necessarily. How many troops? Like, the United States only starts with, like, yeah, like 5 divisions. And I don't believe there's a way to force conflict earlier with the United States. I mean, it would be really nice if we could do that, but... India... How has this gone so bad? I mean, how many troops do you have? I mean, you have 22 divisions. How are you struggling so much to deal with Afghanistan, who has probably like 10-ish? I mean, India will deal with this one. I'm not sending troops over. That'd be ridiculous. And if you declare war on Nepal, by the way, I am absolutely not supporting that in any way, shape, or form. I refuse to put my name to that. I think we want to keep the influence of British exiles and the popularity of the king. We want these to be as high as possible. They don't like the king right now. But that's okay. You see his control of Ecuador. What is Ecuador? They have gone from democratic. That is fine. And yeah, some democracy in Australasia. That's good for us. I do believe that makes them much less likely to actually join up. Or, you know, have like a revolution or something like that. That'll definitely screw us over. I really wish I could just, like, take control of your troops, because I could do this. Like, if you just put one guy here, you'd surround these two infantry pretty easily as well. The writ of election issued. The House of Commons has issued the writ of elections, calling for a general election to be held in October of this year. Both the Liberals and the Conservatives have already begun campaigning, and the general sentiment is that though this election is an important one, does the country push hard towards a confrontation with the Union of Britain, or does it take a more cautious approach, focus on building up Canada's strength and that of the other dominions? The Liberals favor the latter, and the Conservatives and British exiles heavily the former. Of course, we're going to have the Conservatives win, or even if we want to, just have the British exiles take over the country. I don't know what happens in that situation, which is why I kind of want to do it. If the country breaks apart, then, you know, so be it. Got 64 political power. Not enough to really do anything here. Like, I would like to go straight to Portugal mobilization. Like, that would be nice. I'll read this in a moment. So we've gotten a little bit better here. An extra research slot this early on would be nice. Rail expansion. You know what? Let's go for the extra research slot right now. The Moyenne Commission. The recently degraded state within the West Indies economy, causing an organized labor movement within the region, become the cause of some concern on our part. The Canadian people have always felt close to those within the West Indies Federation due to similar upbringing from colony to British-led federation. Increasingly, the desire for formalized search into the region and its problems. This has resulted in the formation of the Moyenne Commission, expected to go around to each colony within the Federation and see exactly what the problems are, starting with the colony of Guyana. The officials in charge of this are the Walter Guinness, versus Baron Moyenne is in the lead, Dr. Mary Blacklock, who works in the tropic medicine, Professor... I mean, there's just a list of people. Do I care about this? Like a power plus 20? Good. That's all I care about. What are the effects? So what are these, Found corporations? What can you give us? Civilian factories. Some political power. Which I don't have. Take 90 days. More than 2 can be used. We actually need 3. But still, that's not bad. Southern Ontario, Montreal. Like, I would like some factories to be free. Right now, I only have 2, unfortunately. I mean, I guess I could just trade less stuff. You know what? Yeah, I mean, let's see. What are we building? So I think most of these things we actually have in stockpile. So what if we just stop trading with the outside world for a moment? And just start building up some of these companies. Bennett accused of the Liberals of inaction. With the effects of Black Monday still being felt in Canada, R.B. Bennett has taken the offense. He accused Mackenzie King and the Liberals of gross inaction. Not only is the economic management of the country, but what he suggests is the inevitable war, which will determine the fate of not only Canada, but the entire world. Canada, he says, should be pushing hard for the coming war, and suggests that if it fails to do so, the Entente shall be caught once again in a weak and indefensible position. Considering the large crowd he attracts at his latest speech in Halifax, there are a large number of Canadians who agree with him. Conservatives get a little bit more popular. How popular are we? 31%? Tories are at 43. Kind of like, it's more like 38 against 48. The Tories are right now definitely looking like they should win the election. Right now we only have 2 factories available. 1936 Stanley Cup. 2 teams have made it into the 1936 Stanley Cup finals. The Toronto Maple Leafs making their 6th appearance, and Detroit Red Wings making their 2nd appearance, and are still hungry to win after their first cup. There's only a brief interruption at the first game of Detroit with demonstrators by the Socialist Party of America disrupting proceedings outside the stadium. Series of who will come on, Toronto, we got this. Toronto, they're gonna win this one for us, maybe, or they're not. And they done it. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, the only important thing that's ever happened. The coronation of King Edward. King Edward the Eighth, the first British monarch not to be coronated within the halls of Westminster Abbey. Instead, royal planners have an elaborate ceremony in the Christ Church Cathedral, Ottawa's largest Anglican church, where the Archbishop of Canterbury himself, a British exile, performed the rites affected by tradition, with the throng of media paying close attention to every move. Rather than making his first public appearance afterwards on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, King Edward instead appeared in the balcony of Rideau Hall, the official royal residence, where he was greeted by a throng of enthusiastic Canadians. Ability's gone up, he is more popular, everything's going pretty well. So, getting the Canadian Royal Tour, you can make him even more popular within Canada. I'm not too sure why we want to make him more popular. Maybe if we do a coup, say through the War Measures Act at some point, things will not be terrible. I'm not too sure, but I think this is going to be a good time for us to end this first episode. So thanks everybody for watching. My name's been Anthem. If you enjoyed, give me a thumbs up. Not enjoyed, tell you thumbs down. If you want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.